the Washington football team. Who said this? I grew up here in Montgomery County, and the Washington Redskins were the #1 franchise. We need to get back to those days. So, Mike, was this Daniel Snyder of Rockville or Josh Harris of Chevy Chase?
I actually thought it was Daniel Snyder, but back when he purchased his team the first time. Ironically, I thought that quote was attributed to him, but I will see if I'm right.
So, Mark, what do you think?
Well, I think that they had to get rid of Dan Snyder because there was no way. This is the bringing it back to the political. That no one was going to subsidize a stadium for Dan Snyder. So, if ever anybody had created a toxic brand, it was him. So I guess Josh Harris comes in, and we'll see what the state of Maryland ends up doing.
Well, the answer to the question is that was Josh Harris, but it is striking how, the similar backgrounds between Dan Snyder and Josh Harris. And I remember when Snyder purchased the team from John Cook, Jack Kent Cook's son, how a great deal of attention was from the fact that he grew up a Redskin fan, grew up in Rockville, and was a devoted fan of the team. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But what I'm surprised about, and maybe you are not, is the amount of interest being paid to the sale of the football team. I thought the Redskins, as a sports franchise, was kind of a dead entity. Any thoughts on your part?
No, I think it's an incredible market. I think people recognize that. I think it's an incredible brand. In spite of the last 20 years, I think the tradition is tremendous. And so I think that, and I also think that there was, we all like to watch the train wreck that's happening. And I think that whether you were on the inside of football or in the community, I think everybody saw that the Daniel Snyder ownership was a disaster, and everyone was rooting for a way to get out of this. I mean, the NFL owners, it was portrayed back in the spring that they wouldn't be able to vote until sometime in late August, September, because of all of this stuff. They couldn't get this done fast enough. So when you look at that, clearly they wanted to get this done just as much as the people in the community did. So I think I'm actually excited to see it because there hasn't been that much that I think has brought. We've had the World Series, we've had the Stanley Cup, and I think that's been good, but I think we've really lagged over the last few years. And I think whether I like it or not, the Commanders, the Redskins, the Washington football team have been a thing that has brought our community together. And I look forward to that as an opportunity again.
So Mark, I'm glad to note that you are not a New York Jets fan like our former
well, I grew up in Buffalo, so those are fighting words. So if I'm going to support a New York team,
I don't want you to be like Phil Bell and support the Jets.
So, but there's an interesting point there, which is that the loyalties that you develop as a kid, you end up staying. So I must say, in the AFL, the Bills are still my team. And I'm struck that my son, who grew up in Bethesda, lives in Denver the last decade. He's not a Broncos fan. He still roots for Washington. So those loyalties are hard to shake. Even if you have a toxic owner, you kind of stick to those loyalties over a period of time.
Well, back in the old AFL, NFL days, Cookie Gilchrist of the Buffalo Bills was one of my heroes, naturally, because I wanted to be a running back, even though I was built for being a lineman. So
I thought you were going to say it was Jack Kemp, because he was both an athlete and a politician, and you loved him for both respects.
Well, I was just going to say Jack was Cookie's quarterback, as I recall. Right. So yeah.
Too bad the Kansas City Chiefs kept them from winning too much, and the New England Patriots back then, or Boston Patriots at that time even, were pretty darn good. Anyway, thanks, guys. When we come back, we'll have parting shots.